Welcome to Trustee Talk. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dick Murgatroyd, and our guest today is President of the Board of Trustees for the Anderson Township, Russ Jackson. Russ, always good to see you.
You too.
You always come loaded with all kind of good information.
Please don't use the term.
Well,
loaded.
no, that's probably not the good thing.
Let's not have somebody misinterpret
Really,
that
we don't
one.
want him to do that, no. Well, I
It's
don't want to
barely noon.
Yeah. I could say full of information, but that may be...
That'd probably be better.
Better be better.
Jammed full.
Jammed full of information.
There
It's
you go.
always good to be with you. I know today there's a couple things you want to talk about. And I know it refers back to some articles that were in the Inquirer several Sundays ago, because we're taping this show. So by the time they see it, it will be a little bit behind. But a couple featured stories that regarding economic development issues. And so I know we want to talk a little bit about those. So why don't we just hit those head on? The first one, I think, was about the city of Cincinnati's failure to track or monitor some money in the economic development incentives. So you wanted to kind of discuss
not
that.
my place to critique another government, and I wouldn't want them to interfere with ours. But I think the story was a good reminder to all elected officials that we are stewards of the taxpayers' money. We have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we spend it wisely.
Right.
So that particular story said that the city had given out some $200+ million, but they really didn't have a good system in place. And I'm not, I don't know if they were pointing fingers saying somebody did anything intentionally, but when you give out that kind of money, you probably ought to track it a little better. In our case, the interesting aspect of it is that we've never given a tax abatement, ever.
Which is pretty remarkable.
We don't have to worry about tracking them because we've never given one. What's really come up, and there's been legislation pending, I don't know if it actually went forward last year, regarding JEDs, and we've talked about these JEDs, where the companies promise to hire 400, 500, 600 people in exchange for the government putting up the money, and they put up the money in advance, and the return was going to come out of the payroll tax for the people they hired. Mm-hmm. Then when they didn't live up to those expectations, what do? It was a tough battle, and I know that some legislators have tried to come up with a way to allow them to get it back, and I don't know if they've solved the problem. Again, here in Anderson, we don't have the problems. We don't have payroll tax, don't have any JEDs, and never given out a tax abatement. We have given out, actually, 2 so far, incentives. Under the tax increment financing legislation, the one thing that can be done with the revenues is to pay for demolition on private property. And we, in fact, have done that twice, or paid for part of it anyway, in 2 instances. One with the, what is now at Anderson Town Center, was at that time Beachmont Mall, and the other one was with Old River Downs in Belterra. Because that's one of the few, if the only place, that we can spend those tax increment finance dollars on economic development, which is really strange because the revenues are coming. You would think you would be able to spend all of it, but that's not the way the law was written. We've done 2 of those tax abatement, those TIF payment for demolition. But the difference is we don't pay it till after they have performed up to their requirements. So we don't have to monitor it after that. They have to live up to certain requirements.
Because I guess in the case of in Cincinnati, I guess a lot of that money is given up front before they've really, based on a proposal or a request or whatever.
That's the way I understand
and
it.
Then
we've never been flush like that, so
well, yeah, but I guess that's a good point though, because I think probably that creates a problem, because if they come in and give you a proposal, you pay on that basis. We know that a lot of times those things never come to fruition or never do come to total completion like they intend them to be, and then the cities have the money.
Exactly. And I don't think anybody does those things intentionally. There's no benefit to it. It's just the economies and the economic condition of the
Right.
area that would cause them to not.
Well, and I
live up
guess
to it.
the purpose of those, I guess, is really to encourage new development.
Exactly.
For the most part, is that not what
It
they
is,
offer those
and,
incentives for?
the difference in what they do and what we do is that theirs are very, very specific. A company, they give them money, and they attract them. In our particular case, we spend those TIF dollars, because it's the only place we can spend it outside that demolition. We spend it on infrastructure improvements to attract a lot of businesses, more than one business, rather than on a specific business, with the exception of the two that I just mentioned, the town center and Belterra. The latest one that we're working on, infrastructure, we have been working on for a long time, but I think it's finally going to be coming to fruition soon, is the Angkor Connector Road. Say, what? What is that? Well, we've always felt, and the county engineer has felt, and everybody who owns property down there has always felt, that if we can have a road built between State Route 32 and Broadwell, that it will allow that whole area to economically develop. Not one business, but the whole area. The idea being that the trucks, because most of them are trucks, then will take the connector road, go right up the hill to I-275, because in most cases, at least with the businesses down there now, Martin Marietta, if they ever do what they want to do, and the other businesses, they want to get to the river to get to the barges.
Right.
So the shortest way would be to come and take the connector route instead of having to wind through Newtown and create all the problems that they
Which
create
which
for those
makes a
poor
lot of
people
sense.
down
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
But right now, that's the only way you can get there. Trucks aren't allowed on Mount Carmel Road because it's so narrow and windy. So there's no other way at this point. Well, finally, we think there's some funding available, and we've talked with the county commissioners of late. I've had a couple conversations with them, and I think that everyone is of a mind that there's going to be some money available to do that, combined with some TIF dollars that we can provide. That's the kind of thing we do, is to try to improve the infrastructure. And in this case, down there, the whole idea is to diversify the tax base.
Right.
If we can take some of the burden off the residential homeowners, property owners, by putting it on the backs of these new businesses, I think everyone will benefit from that. And that's really the goal. There are 500-600 acres undeveloped down in that area. It's the only industrial commercial area of any size in the entire county that's left, the only one. So this road will make the difference.
Well, sure will. Yeah, I mean, well, and I think that's good spending. I mean, that's good fiscal thinking. I think because doing it that way, you're really not tying yourself to a business and a business having to promise you they're going to do whatever, and then if they don't produce, and that is not unusual, because I mean I worked in that one at the state level many times, and you know that, and you get burned, and there's no recourse for it. You're providing the infrastructure that makes it more feasible for a business to come in, but you're not tied to their particular.
Exactly, and that, when people look, and instead of throwing money at businesses that may come here, and that's what most governments do. Just say, we'll give you so much.
Well, yeah, that's basically what they call their incentive program.
Exactly, just throw money out there.
And the thing is too that they get themselves into a kind of bury themselves in a way, because they make such long-term promises. A lot of times with taxes and tax base and things of that sort with the company, that it ends up being a long haul and not terribly productive for many, many years.
Exactly.
And so the area suffers revenue-wise because of that.
Because
so,
of it,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
You know, one that, again, the city of Cincinnati does has been this tax abatement on apartment buildings and condos.
Oh, really?
It's a 15-year tax abatement. They started it a number of years ago, and it's really worked for them. Where you want to build an apartment building, you can apply for and get a 15-year property tax abatement. Well, they can get away with that because barely 5% of all their 5% of all their revenues come from property taxes. So it's not a
Big deal.
big deal.
Yeah.
They have those people who live here, and if they live here, they pay. Even if they don't even work here, they live here. They pay a payroll
Right.
tax. So smart move on their part. Something, but we can't do it. We're totally dependent on
Your property tax.
property taxes.
Yeah, right.
We give that away. There's nothing.
Yeah, well,
left.
that would be foolish to do. Yeah.
So, but you know, there is the things that you put out there years and years in front of it. I was in Kroger the other day, and a neighbor I'd known probably for 40 years came up to me, and we were just talking briefly. I have to go in with my sunglasses on because it takes me two hours.
I was just going to say, yeah.
2 hours to get bread, milk, and eggs.
Well, of course, you got to sign autographs and do all those other things like
That's
that.
right.
And then everybody can also get free advice.
But a great guy, I've known him forever. But he started out, and it was kind of funny because he said a lot of things going on. I said yes. And he said good things. He said you guys are spending a lot of money.
Yeah, I would imagine that's the impression.
I thought, what? Geez, we spend less now than we did 10 years ago. We don't spend any money at all. We spend other people's money, but we don't spend our taxpayers direct money. So I guess it's a matter of interpretation. If you start doing these good things, people assume that you're just throwing a lot of money out.
They do.
But we don't have it, and when you look at the cutbacks that we've had to face over the last couple of years, I think I saw a number yesterday. I was looking at over $3 million a year in revenues, just from the inheritance tax and the local government fund, and that we aren't getting that we did before. But we still only have one tax levy in the last 15 years. So
which is pretty darn good.
I think we've balanced it pretty well. We're not perfect by any shakes.
Well, but I think you all have done a good job. I mean, from the little short time I've been over here and getting to know all of you, I got to say, Anderson Township has really, I think, got to be extremely pleased with how well you have managed the funds that you have and used the funds you have. And right now, I mean, the growth in this area is amazing. I mean, I look at all of the projects that you guys have on the books right now over this next few years. Pretty amazing stuff, and it's all very positive, and it's all very economically progressive. I can't argue with that at all.
You mentioned something before about the fact that this long-term thing. What you have to watch out are these cyclical economic trends.
Yes.
So you want to be sure that you're at the going inside, the upside of the economic trend. If you start doing these things too late in the game,
then
it'll come back and get you. And that's what happened to us with this parking garage over here. We started, but by the time we were into it, the national economy had just gone to hell in a handbasket.
Yep.
And those things happen. The thing in Kenwood, the exact same thing happened.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't mean you can't solve them, but boy, the solution is painful.
Well, it's pretty expensive, and the initial time until you can get it back again. And you're right, the timing is really critical. If you get in the right window, it will it will pay off. But if it doesn't, you see a lot of mistakes. Not mistakes, but I mean a lot of unfortunate things where projects start and couldn't be finished because of that very thing.
And I think is too often that entities come in too late because they're reacting to what someone else has done somewhere else.
Yeah.
Rather than just being creative and making things happen. Being proactive, I guess, is the key.
And also doing things that you feel fit fit the mold of your particular area, because I think sometimes people do get carried away. They find something that works really well somewhere, and then everybody goes bonkers, and pretty soon.
That's the hot idea. Yeah,
the hot idea.
Yeah, right.
But it's not necessarily a hot idea for the area, for your area.
Right.
And that's the decision there is the tough one, but you got to kind of look at those things pretty.
And the other point that comes with that, Dick, is that there are certain entities that reach a saturation point.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, if you have 3 of them, maybe not too bad, but
Right.
when you have 8 of them,
Yeah, a little bit much.
That
little
overwhelms
overkill.
the market. So, one that we're working on right now. First, I'll mention 2 things that we're working on. One, because of these people, when people say these things about spending the money, in the next few weeks, maybe by the time the show airs, they're going to be starting on this continuous flow intersection
Right.
at 5 Mile and Beachmont. And there's been all kinds of talk about it, and a few people have opposed it, and most people just didn't understand it.
No.
I don't think anybody will really understand it until they actually see it.
No, I think that's going to be one that's going
Right.
to scratch their heads about, because I
Right.
think it sounds interesting, but I think people are going to, having not been exposed to anything like that. I mean, it was kind of the same thing with the roundabouts.
Roundabouts, yes, that's
which I mean, that's another thing where was very popular. I mean, and people started putting them in, even if they didn't need them, and it created more problems.
Yes, this is, and so many people think that this is going to be a roundabout.
Yeah,
It's not anything like that. So, not at all. You spend 3 days going in a roundabout because you can't get over into the lane to get off.
That's right.
Ooh,
See, the people in Europe are used to them. They don't. It's like demolition derby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
right.
here,
This is different,
I've watched
yeah.
people sometimes, and I think people get on there, and then they don't know what to do. They don't know who's going to stop or who's not going to stop, and it gets crazy. But I think this is ingenious concept. I mean, I'm anxious to see it just because I want to see how it works.
I want to see it work.
Me too.
The good thing about it, though, is that we are not spending one single dollar of local taxpayer dollars on this project. It's been completely funded by state and federal funds. Now, we all pay towards it, but
it's not
it's
coming
not
out of
the
your.
same
It's
as
not coming out of your
our
coffers.
budget.
Yeah,
So,
right.
That's the positive thing, and people will see that along with all the other things that are going on along Beachmont Avenue. But the latest one, and the one that I really am excited about for a whole lot of reasons, is the thing called Town Center Way, which is the road that rings the back of the Anderson Town Center. That road, because of what Kroger is doing and because of what the center is doing with the movie theater and and there are other factors, is going to be completely rebuilt as a thoroughfare. Now, it's not going to be 4 lanes because there's not enough land there, but totally rebuilt so that what they're trying to seek is that this side, the back side of the town center, will become an front entrance.
Oh, okay.
So that when people will come this way, it'll be just the same as coming in from the Beachmont
Oh,
Avenue.
okay. All right. Yeah.
And there's a lot of plans for it. It's going to be great. We will be participating in it as part of a long-term plan because we had to do a lot of work to it anyway. So it actually becomes a front door. And that's going to be pretty exciting because, from my viewpoint, because I believe that finally it will help us solve this parking garage problem that we have.
Yeah.
Because now that piece of property and that parking garage and that location suddenly is going to be
Has a lot of
very
meaning.
valuable. Before, it was the side lot next to Kmart, whatever, so
Right.
it didn't have a lot of benefit. Now people are starting to say, oh yeah, this may be
Well, sure,
positive.
sure,
And
yeah.
so while we have to wait a whole lot of years to solve it, I think we
But
finally
at least
have a
you're,
chance.
yeah, but at least you're on the right path, I think. Yeah.
We think so.
Yeah, for sure.
it's,
Well, that's great.
No
I-
promises in the world, but
But I
that's
think that
the
that's a
latest
that's a
thing.
good move, and for many reasons, just
Well, it had to be
traffic-
done anyway.
well,
because of-
traffic-wise and everything else, and because of the Kroger.
because they're taking out that entrance off of
Right.
Beachfront, or actually now more of it's an entrance, right in entrance and right out now. They have to have the access off of Wolfangle Road, and that just creates a whole new flow of traffic.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So it's really very much a positive.
I think that's going to be good. That's a good move.
The other thing, going back to your original statement, there was a second article in the Enquirer that
Right.
related to exec session, and it was kind of interesting because whoever wrote it, as my good friend Bill Burley, who is chairman of the board of Scripps Howard, had said, today's formula for news gathering is for a reporter to stake out a position on one side or the other.
Yes.
And call it objective.
Yes.
Well, this one was not very objective. It was inferring that executive session for economic development was improper. I think they're totally wrong on that issue. In this particular case, economic development is competitive.
Yes.
And just like the purchase of property, we have our meetings. Our law director comes to every exec session for the purpose not to be a party to the exec session, but to make sure that we follow
Right.
the very specific rules, and we always, prior to going in, have to read out the very specific legislation that applies to what we're going to talk about.
Right.
And we try very hard. We had a recent exec session combined with the Park District and with the school board. They have the same rules we have. But I can assure you that we only had one topic, and that was involved the purchase of a land that impacted all three parties. The only other thing is, I did ask them all to come back to our administrator later and see if they had any other thoughts for reasons why we would have joint meetings, not joint exec session, but joint meetings.
Right.
But economic development's just one that's so competitive.
Well, it is, yeah. And plus, you're reluctant to want to release something that's not really firm, but in just a discussion stages, because sometimes people go off the deep end.
Absolutely, yes.
You know, with a little bit of knowledge, and which is even more dangerous than none at all.
We have thinking about the people that own Victory, that owns the town center, as an example. They refuse to put out any information on anything. So if you were to have an exec session regarding the purchase of property relating or economic development with them, if that was public, it wouldn't happen.
No, it wouldn't.
And
That's right.
that
Yeah.
doesn't do anybody any good.
No.
So I think the overstatement of this thing, as long as everybody follows the rules of what
Well, I
exec
think,
session is
I
for.
think we're living in a world, because executive sessions have been in existence for government for years and years and years and years and years and years. I mean, and they're legit, and as you said, as long as you announce the purpose for which you're going into executive session, you stick to that particular purpose or that particular item. That's really what's required.
Well, you and I both know, Dick, that they have been abused.
Oh, they have. Well, and
that's-
I think that's
that's the problem.
and that's part of the problem, which is unfortunate. But and then I think today there's such a desire. I mean, everybody feels they should know everything, right away.
Transparency is
Yeah.
one, and I would like to tell you about something that I have initiated, working with our administrator. We're trying to do an self-audit of our transparency, because there are always people out there that say you need to be more transparent. And I have no problem with that, other than when you try, how transparent can you be? Do you have to spoon feed people, or do you make them at least try to find the information?
Right,
Because it becomes very expensive. The state of Ohio, our treasurer, Josh Mandel, the state of Ohio was classified as the worst state in the United States for transparency
really?
on economic matters
Yeah.
when he took office. And he didn't like that, and so he did something similar to what I'm talking about on a much bigger scale to improve them. I think their latest rating was like 6th. So that's pretty good improvement. The problem was, now every time you become more transparent, the people who want transparency change the rules.
Oh, yes.
And that's
Yes.
the problem. The big issue now with the state is not just to be transparent, but you need to have a website that actually spoon feeds the people this information.
Yeah.
Which is fine. However, the state of Ohio spent so far $783,000
Oh, my
for
goodness.
this website.
Oh, my
And I mean, they were trying to fulfill what they thought were the wishes of the people, but boy, those dollars.
That's a lot of dollars for transparency. And you know what? Probably you'll never satisfy everybody.
And you won't.
You won't.
Yeah,
you
there's
won't.
and because even if it's there, you have people that criticize why. Well, why did
Sure.
you spend that money?
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Of course
Why did
they
you
do.
spend that money on that parking garage? Well, just because we thought it was a pretty darn good idea.
Good idea.
Yes,
Good idea.
right.
So, you know what? We have more good ideas, except we don't have any more time.
What? There you go. We have to make this a 5-hour show instead of a
Listen,
4-hour show.
but a
What?
good show, and good
Good.
stuff, good conversation. Always great to see you.
You too.
You're a delight, and I appreciate what you do, and I know the people of Anderson Township appreciate what you do, and you and all the trustees.
Well, thank you.
We thank you for joining us on this edition of Trustee Talk and making us part of your day. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week. I'm Dick Murgatroyd, and on behalf of our producer, Nikki Bishop, and our director today is Shane Reiner, and all of us here at ACTV, we hope you'll come back and join us for the next edition of Trustee Talk on ACTV. Thank you.